Thanks for staying with us. Now, there's been mixed reaction to the report by Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka into the Phala Phala farm saga. Now, some opposition parties have called this report a whitewash. Others say it's not worth the paper it's written on, but others have also welcomed it. Now, Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka is the acting public protector. She announced last week that her office's investigation cleared President Cyril Ramaphosa with regards to several issues, including undertaking paid work. Now, the report also found that the head of the President's Protection Services, Major General Wali Rueda, has been found to have conducted an unsanctioned investigation following the burglary at the farm. Now, Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka, the acting public protector, is joining us in studio now. Thank you so much for your time and for making the trip. You know, people always come on Zoom, so we appreciate having people in studio. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Bongi, and good afternoon to the viewers.
I'm sure you've seen what has been the reaction to the report, especially since, you know, just after Friday and some of what has happened. What is your take on it?
My take on it really, Bongi, is that we are a democracy as South Africa. We are a growing democracy as South Africa. And indeed, it is correct for South Africans to be correct, to have opinions, especially in matters that involves ethics surrounding the head of state in the country. Therefore, for me, really, it is democracy in action.
They're calling it a whitewash. Others are saying it's not worth the paper it's written on. It's now also likely, in fact, not even likely, it's going to court to be challenged.
Well, the report has really been well thought of. We acted within our mandate. We looked into what is it that we are called upon to investigate in respect of the Code of Ethics as well as the Public Protector Act. And we separated the issues, and those that should be investigated by other institutions which they've confirmed that they are investigating same, which is in line with Section 6.4 of the Public Protector Act, that we've got the powers to refer to other public bodies which have investigative powers, and we have done so.
And do you feel that, you know, a lot of the criticism that you would have received around this particular report, because others are saying that your view is so narrow that it did not go into the full interpretation of the law and some of the sections of the law that you would have used? Some are saying that it's really something that you should have known as an advocate. So do you feel that this criticism for you is unwarranted or warranted?
I'm still waiting to hear which law they are referring to. And which other aspects they feel that we should have used in terms of the interpretation. We'll probably wait for the court papers to see same. At this point, I haven't heard which legal aspects they are referring to and which they are rebutting our report with.
Some of, you know, what is, of course, I'm sure you've seen it, it's around Section 96 of the Constitution. And Section 96 of the Constitution is very clear on, you know, in fact, I'm going to borrow from it, saying that members of the cabinet and deputy ministers may not undertake paid work or act in a way that is inconsistent with their office or expose themselves to any situation involving the risk of a conflict between their official responsibilities and private interests. And I wonder if you took this section into account, because I know that you used, of course, the Constitution, used the Executive Members Ethics Act. You also used, of course, the Public Protector Act. But did you take this act into consideration?
Most definitely, it is there in the report. We have taken it into account, and we go in length to interpret what is paid work, and we go again into the Code of Ethics, which speaks of remunerative work, basically interpreting what is in the Constitution. And we analyze that, and we come to the conclusion that the President did not undertake paid work, but rather has financial interest in the close cooperation.
And I do understand we've got this clip that, you know, I really would like you to listen to. And I'm going to borrow from some of what you say in your report as we pick it apart piece by piece to try and understand exactly how this particular conclusion was reached. And if we do have that particular soundbite of the President at the conference, the closing, in fact, of the conference in Limpopo, the ANC conference, that is, if we can listen to it.
However, I would like to say that I'm a farmer. I'm in the cattle business and the game business. And through that business, which has been declared in Parliament and all over, I buy and I sell animals. Sometimes people buy these animals, and some of the people who have bought some of the animals, some of them are here. I do it, yes. I do it through, the sales are sometimes through cash or sometimes through transfers. Some of the people who are offshore customers and who are sometimes local, they come through and buy animals, and some of them come also to hunt on the farm. And so this that's being reported was a clear business transaction of selling animals.
All right, firstly, let's start with your impressions on that.
Well, we interact with that in our report, and we take that in line with the evidence that was before us. The president has members' interest, which translates into financial interest, into the farm. However, he does not run the operations of the farm. There are managers who manage the farm. There are farm workers who work on the farm. It is the manager, even on the day in question, who handled the transaction of sale. It was not the president. He was not present at the farm.
But he was
they
told
also
about the
gave
sale.
information that he actually goes to the farm rarely. He's not always at the farm.
But he was
now,
told,
when you look at,
when I read, pardon me for coming in there.
the information,
He was
before
told
us,
about the sale,
I
and a
agree
lot of
with
what
you.
Mr. Ndlovu says,
But allow
pardon
me
me.
to finish, and then you'll get there.
But I just wanted to just
I'll
get there before we run out of time.
No, I'm going to attend to that. He was told of the sale, but does that amount to a day-to-day operations of the farm? The definition says he must be involved into the day-to-day operations. And more time must be put into that for us to be able to prove
How
paid
sure
work.
are you that he's not involved in the day-to-day runnings of the farm? How sure, how certain are
We
you?
had to deal with interviewing witnesses and take the evidence before us. So it is not a matter of being sure, but it is a matter of relying on evidence that is before us.
So, your report says that you considered the meaning of concepts of paid work or remunerated work as gleaned from various sources, and the overarching conditions which arise from most definitions refers to an employment relationship or a self-employed person who provides work or renders physical or mental labor for remuneration or payment in money or in kind. He says in that clip, I'm a farmer, I sell. When you sell to get money. You don't sell to not get money. So is that not a job? Is a farmer not a job?
No, it is not.
What is it?
It is two-phrased. You can either have financial interest or you can perform it in terms of a job.
He says, I sell.
But the information that we have before us in terms of selling is that he doesn't physically sell. And at the end of the clip, if you listen carefully, he says they go to the farm to purchase. So
And
in this instance, if you look into this instance, which we were investigating, at the time when the sale took place, he was not at the farm. It is the manager who conducted the transaction and who further confirms that if Ndlovu is not there, Van Veilig is there to be able to interact with the buyers. So we do not have information that the president interacts with the buyers. So yes, he says he sells, but does he physically sell? Does he put his mind and physique into the runnings of that farm on a day-to-day basis
So,
that we can prove paid
Mr.
work?
Ndlovu, according to also even your report, gave him quite a detailed report at length about the money, how it was to be, handled. And he says, I'm going to go on holiday, we'll handle the money when I come back and all of that. Now, the handling of the money, why does it have to wait for him to come back from holiday if he's not involved in the day-to-day? Because if you're not involved in the day-to-day, you don't want to know how the money is banked. You just say, is it banked? Yes. Why must Mr. Ndlovu go to such lengths of telling him, this is where I'm going to move it from, to move it there, to move it there and there? Is that not an operational matter?
Remember, the farm manager, who is Van Veilig, was not available at that time. He was on leave. And Mr. Ndlovu is fairly junior in terms of the operations there. But in terms of our assessment of the matter, you cannot say that a person who's got a financial interest in a business and there is a large sum of foreign currency not being informed that there is this money that we have received, and they say, wait for me to come back from holiday. Now, how is that a day-to-day? That is in respect of that particular issue. A day-to-day, in respect of our assessment and looking into the definition, would be that firstly, he would have received the sale personally, he would have signed the invoice personally, and he would have personally stored that particular money. But in this instance, that is not the case. But yes, it does qualify that he does have financial interest. And if you further read into the report, we actually acknowledge that the president seems to be more involved in the business. However, we cannot find evidence to translate that involvement into a day-to-day operation.
Could you not then, if you do find that, because it was going to be one of my questions, that if we find that he's more involved, can't you then leave it to say the bodies that are tasked with investigating such, that have got powers to investigate in such, should they not look into this further? Because it does raise questions, particularly when you think about Section 96 of the Constitution. He places himself in a situation that could be seen as conflicting. You are the public protector. You are meant to defend the Constitution. Can't you just make a ruling that says, okay, my recommendation is that X institution, please look into this because there could be a smoking gun here?
It is our institution. The fact that it is an ethics issue, hence we actually interacted with the matter, evaluated it, assessed it, and came to a final decision. It is because that lies within our mandate.
So when we then look at this particular issue, one then asks the question, your report, and you dealt with this on Friday, but there's still some questions around this, and even one of our viewers, Musa, was asking this question, is that the Section 89 panel in Parliament said there appears to be a case to answer to here. They rely also on Section 96 of the Constitution, which is very clear on what should be done in this particular instance. Are you saying they were wrong?
Let me explain the difference between the Section 89 and our mandate. They said there's a case to answer. We also said there's a case to answer. That's why we went on to investigate. Theirs is a preliminary investigation and ours is a full-scale investigation. Theirs, they did not interact with witnesses. They didn't summon witnesses. Besides the documents that were before them, they didn't even do an inspection in loco. So we went in detail, in line with our investigative methodology, to actually answer some of the questions that they had. Therefore, you cannot really compare the two.
But are you saying they were wrong?
They were right in terms of the preliminary investigation, that there was a case to answer. That is why if the vote had gone through into Parliament, there was supposed to be then an impeachment committee that would probably have powers closer to ours to go intimately into the investigation. So ours was to go further into the investigation. We actually went further than just having a case to answer. We investigated. We made the president to answer.
According to you, as you sit here now, did Mr. Mustafa fetch his cattle eventually?
At this point, I've got no idea what happened. But
When you
the
were
last
conducting the
time when we
investigation?
were conducting the investigations, they were not fetched because firstly, there's a process that takes place. So the exchange doesn't happen imminently. They need to be taken for certain tests, etc. But then in that process, this particular incident took place. So what then happened further to that, I've got no idea of.
So these tests that are being run, how long do they take, were you told? Because, I mean, if there's tests to be run, if there's so much that needs to be done, it cannot take this long in 2023 now.
As I'm saying, our investigation was as far as at that point what took place, what happened. So this was not part of our investigation. That it's 2023, they are not fetched. It's really not within our mandate.
Did it not raise alarm bells for you, though, that someone, purchases this particular breed of cattle, comes into the farm, is interested in it, and they then pay, but they then do not subsequently collect? Yes, you're being told there's processes here. Let's park the processes for a second. Does it not raise alarm bells for you?
Let me first just make this clear. Ours was not an investigation into the process of the sale of the cattle. So ours was to look at what had transpired in respect of this issue, in line with the code. So we had to limit ourselves to that. And we also had to limit ourselves to the incident in question, and taking further notice that a certain incident took place which obviously disturbed the process moving forward. So a suspicion for us is not enough. We have to work with evidence before us.
So when then it comes to this particular report, because there's so many questions around it, and the ethics aren't just limited to the sale or to what transpired or anything. There are so many other issues that are being raised in this particular matter. Would you say that you understand those people that are quoting Section 96 at length to say that because of all of these questions arise, the president may have placed himself in an unfortunate situation of being exposed to a conflict of interest? Would you say you understand those particular individuals who are raising that?
You know, Bongi, what's important about the individuals who are raising that, they need to tell against what are they raising that. And actually, I would find comfort that those be detailed in the papers, so that if the need arises, we then respond to those. But at this moment, there's really no detail as to against what are they questioning the conclusions that we came to.
Do you think your report will stand scrutiny when it goes to court?
What I've been consistently saying is that a law is a matter of interpretation. That is why you find two parties at court, and you would find both parties having different authorities and case law for which they argue. But what I'm confident about is that this is a report that has gone through due process in line with the law. This is a report that has been done ethically by the office without any bias, and a lot of work has been put into it, and a lot of quality assurance has been put into it. So it is definitely a report that will be duly considered by the judges, and they can obviously make a judgment call on a point of law.
And I ask this because, you know, when you write an exam, you put your best foot forward, right? And you say, this is what I've done, and I am confident I can defend my research paper. It's one thing to say it's gone through all the quality assurance processes. It's another to say you are confident in this report that you've penned, that you are confident that whatever happens, whichever court of law is going to scrutinize it, will see it your way. Are you confident that this report that you penned can withstand scrutiny? Is this your best work?
Unfortunately, the law doesn't work like that. It's not about a research paper. Hence, you normally have an applicant and you've got a defendant, and the court listens to both sides. And at times, a matter can be even a 50-50, but at the end of the day, the court must take a decision. And as I say, it is a matter of interpretation of the law, of how the court would see it. But yes, we did put our best foot forward in this particular matter, and hence I'm saying it went through severe quality assurance. And what does that mean? It means that we did put our best foot forward, and we've actually had the best team that worked in this particular matter.
So I take it then you say that that report, when it gets to court, because everyone who works even on a case will say, I've got a strong case, and it's a winnable case, it's a case that I know that I can be able to defend. So I'm taking it's a case you can be able to defend.
Definitely. However, it is up to the court on how they interpret the particular matter and what decision they arrive at.
Some have seen this particular installment in your career as auditioning to get the public protector job. I'm sure you've seen it, you've heard it. You know, some are saying that this particular report is you auditioning to get the job eventually. How do you respond?
Well, you know, the process of appointing a public protector is so intricate. It's got all checks and balances. It is really not dependent on one person. It's an entire process. As you know now, there's a committee that's been set up. From there, whichever names are recommended, they go to the National Assembly, and it requires a large vote from the National Assembly, and it is then that the name goes to the president. So I really feel that the process and the utterances actually do not match.
Some say that
the process has got very clear checks and balances.
They say the ANC is in the majority, some argue.
Well, for me, the checks and balances are there, and they are sufficient, actually not just requiring the ANC vote, but it requires more than that, because it's a 2/3 majority that's required to appoint a public protector.
Would you say that you built on the case that Advocate Busiwe Mkhwebane had started on this particular report?
Well, if you look into the report, particularly where we start off, we are very clear we are lining out even the deficiencies that were there. Starting off in the case, Advocate Mkhwebane only issued the questions to the President, and those questions were based on a hearsay affidavit which the Public Protector was not even in possession of at the time that she sent those questions. So we indeed built on that case, because we then obtained the actual affidavit from Mr. Fraser and tried to follow up on what he had said. However, some of the sources which he had stipulated in that report, he did not reveal, and therefore some of that information could not be found. So a lot of work had been done. In fact, I must say 98% of the work was done. The 2% would have been the questions that she issued, but however, which were not supported by concrete or admissible evidence before the Public Protector at the time.
Before I let you go, how would you describe your relationship with Advocate Mkhwebane?
We've got a collegial relationship with Advocate Mkhwebane.
Just a collegial relationship?
Yes.
Nothing else?
Yes.
All right. Let me thank you for your time. I wish we had more time to discuss some of the issues around this report, but let's wait to see when it goes to court what happens. As you say, that you've put your best foot forward, and there's still quite a lot of questions that are being asked around some of what's happening. But thank you so much for coming through. That is the Acting Public Protector, Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka.